Good morning, thank you guys. So my name is Rash Marsban. I'm the head of product at Armor Cloud Security. And what we thought we would talk to you guys about today is full stack security, sort of in the shared responsibility model. And what does that mean, and how do you use public cloud tools to really accomplish security in an effective way while layering third-party and other programmatic components on top of it? So, with that being said, one of the most amazing things that I've seen at this show is that Amazon releases an incredible amount of new tools on a constant basis, and we've got to leverage those. And the reason that we have to leverage those is very simple, in that security, the way that it's been done before and how it's been implemented over the past 20, 30 years, won't work. It's not meant to be the same as data center security in the past as it is in public cloud. And the reason that it won't work is relatively straightforward. There's a lot of data. Here's the data that I find super interesting, so I wanted to share it with you guys, which is, we know that companies have experienced a notable increase in cyber attacks just this year. So 50% growth or increase there. Ransomware attacks have gone up. 4 out of 5 companies think that they're going to experience a cyber attack this year alone. And this is industry data, right? So I think this is super interesting. We've seen web attacks increase 300% over the past year as well within our company, within Armor. And one of the most interesting components is that we actually run a number of honeypots across AWS and the public cloud. And what we see is from the moment a system goes live in the public cloud, within 2 minutes is typically the time frame that we see that system getting pinged, getting attacked. So people are trying to figure out, is there a gap? Is there a hole? What can I do to get into that environment? And that's fascinating. 2 minutes, which is about the time it takes for the VM to come up. It's pretty incredible, right? So that's something that we watch and monitor within our company quite avidly. We find it fascinating. Some more data. There is a cost to security, obviously, right? And what's interesting is that really the direct cost of a breach is only about 5% or less for a company, right, from a business impact standpoint. However, what's fascinating is that from an intangible component, the brand impact can be as great as 90% disruption to the company's growth strategy, whatever it might be, but their market impact's notable. And that's fascinating, right? So the dollars and the business and the long-term viability of the company are always impacted by security. And we've seen $910 billion lost in the past 10 years just based on cyber attacks. Again, fascinating to me. So we know that cybersecurity doesn't always accomplish what it needs to, because when you look at the OWASP top 10, over the past several years, the OWASP top 10 has stayed stable. That means that the attack types haven't changed. They're still effective, which is crazy because there's new tools, there's new solutions, there's all this cool stuff out there, but yet hackers are using the same things to get into companies. So the tools aren't really working, right? But public cloud gives us an amazing opportunity to do some things different. So let me paint a story for you guys of a company. We're going to call it Acme Corp. Acme Corp is every one of our companies 5 years ago, let's say, right? So the company 5 years ago, let's say it was brick and mortar. They were worried about intellectual property theft. 0 days and vulnerability exploits were the primary concern. And they had security tools, maybe 10, 20 across the board that they were trying to operate or figure out, right? And this was the company several years ago. Cloud has driven a massive change in how companies operate. Every company in the world is moving to us or trying to be a SaaS-enabled company. So now this is Acme in 2018, let's say, right? So they're a hybrid cloud company. They still have some workloads in legacy environments, but they're pushing and moving quickly into the public cloud. And with that, they know that they need more tools, they need more security. And we've seen a massive growth. So the latest industry number is 75 tools on average are being used for IT and security purposes inside an organization. So just imagine trying to coordinate and bring all of those pieces together to bring logic to what's going on in your operational structure, right? That's incredible. That's a bit challenging. So 5 years from now, where we think Acme Corp is going to be is that it's a data-driven company. They've already converted themselves into a SaaS company, right? Everything's software-driven, agile development. You push things out, you leverage cloud, you can just get new solutions out there in a heartbeat. But that scale that now you have with that focuses you on data. and data becomes the key driver. So in that process, some other things have to change because you need speed, right? You've already gained the speed that you got going to public cloud, but you need speed. So DevOps is driving the world from at least our lens, right? And in that changeover where DevOps becomes the primary, you're using public cloud tools. And I hope everyone saw the keynote yesterday morning and today, of course. We saw more amazing tools come out from the Amazon team, and they're phenomenal, and we have to leverage them. So the baseline is that if I'm delivering security in my environment, in my company, in my organization, that I've got to bring certain teams together. Because in today's world, your DevOps team, your IT team, your SOC are really one unit. They're all operating and managing and watching the same platform. So you start with good configuration, right? So that's the key to all of this. Basically making sure you've got some uniformity operationally across the board. So when you look at the tools that Amazon offers that you can just go and grab and leverage, there is an amazing layer of security that you can just do in a CDCI chain, push out, get the stuff out there, your code's going out, your application's going out, the business is operating, and this is just a part of your landscape. So this is how we view it, which is, let's say, take something like Macy, right, which allows you to categorize and tag data as it's dynamically being developed in your environment, right, or growing in your environment. Those tags can be leveraged for identity access management, right? So using some of the basic logic of these tools and the components that you can take, stitching them together gives you your first-line security and simplifies the work of your IT teams from an orchestration standpoint, standards, operationally, allows your security teams to do more work and really drive effective behavior. And the operational component and then taking that data and analyzing is the next piece. But you've got to put the tools to work for you, and there is a ton of great tools out there. So every company's going to use them different, right? They're going to use them differently. You're going to integrate different components in here. But take even guard duty. It's a phenomenal tool. You just add it to your environment, add a threat feed to it. You get context coming in immediately. And when you've already set up your tagging to leverage Macy and your infrastructure or your identity access management, and these pieces come together, you've already got your baseline security components in place, and they're in place every time you deploy, expand your environment, add new code, take something to production. They're there, right? And we have to use them. They're phenomenal. The amount of development and work that goes into what Amazon puts out should be our first line of defense that unifies security, DevOps, and IT teams inside a company. So, how do we use those tools? And as I said, you've got to do it differently. So, we can make the choice to either lead in this category and say, the tools are there, Amazon's providing them, let's leverage them, or we've got to get out of the way because someone else is going to take over the environment. And that can be fun. So, what's changed in this process is that we've seen infrastructure be delivered as code, right? We've seen companies push out code multiple times a day. That continuous, the CDCI chain is life for many of us at this show. Push button deployment is it. And with each one of those pushes, you want to leverage the capability that's already built into your cloud because you can, again, automate it, standardize it, rely on it. And predictability is actually, from my perspective, one of the biggest keys to effective security in that environment. So being able to have that baseline always be your constant immediately puts you in a situation which you are more secure than one of your peers, right? So what's the next layer to that? How do we really then take it to solution? Because tools don't work for us, right? Tools are great, but tools don't do the job. You need a strategy to unify those tools. You need a strategy that your teams can operate on to leverage the data coming in from those 75 plus different tools and unify them to deliver the expectations of the company, the security of the company, the outcome of your application that your customers are leveraging and taking value from on a daily basis. And that is all around context, right? So the tools are important. Use the public cloud tools. They're there. They're phenomenal. You can do some clever things with them. But then focus on consolidating your views. 75 tools is way too many to be able to get an effective outcome, right? A lot of super smart people here, but if I have to operate 75 unique tools and make sense of each one of those components coming from all of them and orchestrate the activities between my DevOps team, my SOC, engineering, all the different groups, I think I might rather be at the bar, frankly. So consolidate the views, simplify. Don't interfere with the agility. When you can integrate or automate, you want to keep that speed. That's the whole point. That's why we're all here, right? The amazing concept of being able to deploy 50 machines or 1,000 or 2,000 in a heartbeat is exceptional. So don't interfere with that. Let your application run wild. Let your imagination run wild. Those solutions that consolidated the driver for us being able to do the next component, which is one layer is going to be around detecting activity, and the other one is around protection. So I want to protect my environment just as much as I want to see what's going on in it. So I've got to mix different tool types and solutions, and with that comes, let's take third-party tools. There's absolutely a high level of value in bringing third-party tools in. I'm sure everyone in the audience has some sort of malware installed, file integrity monitoring, something, right? Doing vulnerability scanning in the environment. And bringing in some of those pieces, some let you detect, like vulnerability scanning, where are my gaps, where are my holes, what do I do differently? What do I need to go attach, right, or attack to solve? And the protective components help me make sure that I'm blocking activity before it comes into my environment. That's where WAFs and firewalls and all the fun pieces live, and we use those. But you've got to mix the two. So you've got to use the tools, and you've got to mix those two pieces. Context, let me go back to context, because we saw the company, Acme, going into 2023, focused on data. They've already become a SaaS company. Now they're becoming a data-driven company. And data is all around context. So one of my areas is a background in big data and analytics, and understanding what an environment should be doing, understanding the context or value or how people are using your environment is absolutely critical. So the first thing you have to figure out is the data is coming in. What should be going on? Is my application behaving the way that I expect it to? Or is there abnormal behavior? And you know that because you built the application. You architected it a certain way, right? You know what the data pathways are. You know what the requests and queries are supposed to be between components of your application. You know that, so that's your baseline. Context is key. And then the second piece is know your users, because everybody interacts differently with an application, right? So abnormal behavior should be relatively simple to detect, right? So Facebook users, the number of times they log in a day, to the types of data they look at, the algorithms that are built to deliver types of information or what context is interesting or important to you when you go to a news feed, right? Behavior is relatively predictable, especially in today's world. And so knowing your users, knowing how your application works, and knowing what they should be doing helps you build that view of context. And that's one of the things that we do at Armor, right? So our solution, our company is focused on understanding how teams and organizations are using public cloud, how the application stack is supposed to behave to deliver security, to deliver an outcome. Because all of this doesn't matter. Again, when you're operating just a bunch of tools that's giving you data and giving you information, and you don't have a strategy to go and leverage that content or that information to take action, it's irrelevant, right? All of us know that the world revolves around people who drive change. And that activity and change is the component piece there. And we've got amazing tools. So build a lot of that logic off of what the DevOps teams are doing, how they're deploying, what they're pushing out, how the infrastructure is pushed or grows. And you have to assume one thing, which is change is constant. And that's a good thing, right? Everyone is constantly innovating. Everyone in this room is constantly innovating. And so that change is okay. That change is okay. You just have to know what you're changing and why. And when you do know that, then being able to build around that's super important. And that's where you begin to focus on what. Not how it was done or whatever it was, but what has changed? Why is the behavior different? What's going on in the environment that's unique? And that's a big driver. So we have the mindset, I certainly do, that we can't use old tools. So when you look at a standard data center environment, putting a firewall in place, those basic components, the building blocks of doing good security make sense. They're great. They've worked for years. They're effective. I'm lying, they're not. You guys saw the OWASP top 10 conversation. But that's how it's been done. In public cloud, it doesn't work the same way. Everything lives at the app layer. The infrastructure is secondary. That's why all of us are here. It's a tool to get our innovation out the door. And because of that, we can't use old tools. We have to use software-based, dynamic, effective tools that are just automated in the way that we deploy. I don't need to call Jim or Sally and tell her to stand up a machine for me, and I get it 3 weeks from now. That doesn't happen. So you can't use the same tools. And we also know that checkbox solutions, because of the OWASP top 10, aren't effective. They don't deliver security. They don't deliver outcomes because the attack types haven't changed. So everyone's attacking you the same way. Over the past 10 years, it doesn't matter. Ultimately, if you try to do the old thing the same, if you do try to do what we were doing before, this is the result you're going to get. And the outcome is going to be that one of two things is going to happen. You're going to cut yourself, or you're going to break the cup and then cut yourself. So at the start of the conversation, I said full stack, right? So what does full stack security mean? We've talked about the DevOps layer. We've talked about using the tools that are available and leverageable in public cloud. And how do we stitch these pieces together to actually secure an environment is a huge focal point for us as a company and for me. So we take these pieces. We care about protecting the environment, which are tools like anti-malware and those components, and taking the context off of them and commanding and controlling them so that we can keep them running the way that we need to. Then from there, we're focused on detection of activities. So the data coming in that's context about your user and what's happening and how is my app supposed to be working and what do these pieces mean and what's changed, that comes all then into the making, call it sense making, and understanding the context of what's going on in the environment. And that's the driver, because once you know what's going on, then you can take action. But that's what the strategy is, right? Knowing how you're going to attack that environment or how you're going to attack the problem and having a clear defined pathway to action or resolution is really the outcome layer of security that a tool won't help you do, that data analysis won't help you do, but you've got to still have a layer of human intelligence built in there. And the more areas you can get context, the more areas you can add simplicity and uniformity and convergence by leveraging public cloud tools, layering on additional components, then bringing data in for detection, helps you make sense of that data. So that's what we focus on. We focus a lot on trying to make sure that we can bring in data from every cloud native source, every tool that's out there that's available, every legacy environment, stitch all of that together, and then solve the problem. Because if you don't solve it, it was irrelevant. All the work that you did, all the pieces you put in place don't matter. So what does that mean? So all of this together, really for us, when you look at it, brings us to a component around you can't rely on the old way of doing things, and you shouldn't just plug tools into every layer. You need a strategy across the board that leverages public cloud tools at the right components or right pieces in your organization, that can deploy at the speed of DevOps, that's simple and easy to use, that converges content, and allows you to more focus on the pieces that matter, which is understanding how the layers of your stack work. That's where security really resides. And you have to adopt new solutions to do that, as we mentioned. And you got to use every resource. Teams like security, IT, and DevOps have to work together. Again, they operate the same platform. And so the teams working together in a converged way through a converged platform is the easiest way to ultimately deliver security in that model. So we know that we adapt and evolve over time. Our solutions, our stack should as well. And the approach in security has to. So I'm a big believer that with the continual innovation public cloud, that security is going to continue to evolve. And companies that are at the forefront of that will leverage those public cloud tools and mix them with the right solutions that can ultimately deliver an outcome for the company from a security analysis and action standpoint. And that is a massive change in the industry. It's no longer about deploying new tools or having a tools budget. It's now around leveraging what's already inside of your standard operational pipeline to deliver that outcome. So less complexity and a much better outcome for companies. Awesome. Guys, thank you so much. I appreciate everyone coming into the session and listening to me. Hopefully there was some value in the discussion. We're super passionate about security at Armor, and our booth, I think, is right down the road. So,
all right. Very good. Thank
guys,
you.
Thank you.
Just to let you know, their booth is 3010, so 3010 if you'd like to go by and check them out. Thank you, Arash.
Thank you.